July 23rd special call meeting of White County Board of Education to order. If you would, please rise. Mr. Howard, would you direct us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, our staff, those that are support our school and our district, those that may be watching online. We appreciate your attendance and your interest in the activities of the White County School Board. As with all meetings, this is an open meeting to the public, and we be considering items pertaining to the district in public, and we will have our discussions about the items on the agenda tonight in a like manner. So we have one agenda item tonight that we're going to be considering if our agenda approves. So that will be the only item that we'll be considering tonight. After item number 6, one thing that we did note that was omitted from your agenda was public comment. And so in between items 6 and 7, we will add that to our agenda, public comment. So make note of that. And Mr. Vice Chair, please remind me not to skip over that.
You got it.
I'm good with that. So with that being said, at this time I'd like to, if there's any conflicts of interest on the items being considered tonight on tonight's agenda, if you would disclose those at this time.
Mr. Chairman, as I do each and every month, no item on the agenda tonight is a conflict, but just want to make it public knowledge that my wife is a teacher in the system, and any of the comments that you hear tonight will be strictly from me. And will be in the best interest of the district from my point of view.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, I will state the same as Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey.
Mr. Chairman, make that 3 for me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howard. So let the minutes note that Mr. McDonald, Mr. Hickey, and Mr. Howard all identified that they have spouses working within the district, but none of the items on tonight's agenda would constitute a conflict for any of them. So next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda being presented. Board members, you've had the opportunity to look at this agenda with that insert of public comment after item number 6. So this time I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fowler. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is the purpose of our being here tonight, and that is to review the culinary arts project, the bids that were presented to us in our July 11th meeting. We decided we wanted to table that, gather some more information at our retreat this past Saturday, and that information was presented to you, and you've had opportunity to review that. So now is our time to take up this matter for discussion. So would like to give everybody the opportunity to speak to this project and give you a chance to ask any more questions and or state comments about we're considering tonight. So I guess I'll start here on my right, Mr. McDonald.
I have one question, I guess, is for Mr. Markham. As we talked in our retreat this weekend, gathering that information, talking about the bid has been sent through. This project has been approved by the board to move forward with that money that was in the ISM grant, correct? And then the money that we were talking about, the extra money, the $200,000 or $200, whatever that money is, you made the statement that the money was in capital projects. Can you tell me where that money was left over from, or is that, I mean, where would that money come from if we move forward with this project?
Sure, so back in 2013, when we were at the beginning of the Cassville renovation, we moved funds out of the general purpose school fund into a capital projects fund. Kind of think of it as a separate checkbook that you might have for a building fund or something.
Okay.
We set that up, moved money into there to do the project at Cassville, completed that. At the end of that project, we had some funds left over, about 300,000 or so. We decided to leave those in that fund just to keep that fund active as an open fund. No appropriations were made out of it, so there wasn't any money spent, but just to leave the fund open and that fund number active. When it became time to work on Finley, we put those funds from the bond issue in that fund, and we spent all of the bond issuance out of that fund. So that keeps the accounting for those construction projects separate from your general operation projects that you do in the general purpose school fund. So once we got done with Finley, we ended that project with roughly about $300,000 left, and that has just been in there to keep that fund active. There's been no appropriations made by the school board out for any expenses to be paid for out of those funds. But those funds are there in that capital projects fund available for reallocation, back to the general purpose school fund, or in the event that there's another project that comes along, a few years from now or whatever, where we may have another large construction project and we want to use that fund to keep the accounting separate from our general purpose.
So in essence, this money has been just sitting there, not gaining any interest, just sitting there in a fund.
Well, no, it has been gaining interest. I mean, it's the fund is kept separate in our books, but for all practical purposes, it's all in one checking account.
Right, okay.
But yes, it has been gaining interest, and just like
So there would be, if we move forward with this project, there would be no additional hit to the budget that we just approved. Only thing we would be making is an amendment to add that money to this ISM grant.
That's correct. Yes, so you would be moving those funds into the general purpose school fund for the ISM grant.
Okay,
To supplement the ISM.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Dahl?
I think I'm okay right now.
Okay.
Come back to me.
All right, I'm gonna alternate, go to my left. Mr. Howard?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first want to start and go back with some of the information that we've been given about surveys on the importance between ag science and culinary arts. And I want to start with culinary arts here. This is straight off the internet. And just read a couple of highlights. Culinary arts can be unstable. The restaurant business is notoriously fickle and things can change at a moment's notice. Many restaurants fail for reasons totally unrelated to food, difficult landlord, bad business, debt, and so on. The next paragraph, you will work long, difficult hours. Working in a restaurant means working with people who want to eat, even if they're early in the morning, late at night, all weekend long, and likely on major holidays. And that goes on to 10 to 12 hours a day. Starting salaries are low. While it's possible to bring home a solid paycheck as an executive chief, most culinary professionals have to work their way through a variety of low-paying jobs before they reach the top spot in any restaurant. Even entry-level cooks start out often making minimum wage. And then it goes on over here to explain this highlight. Once you climb through the kitchen ranks and put in some years into industry, it's possible to earn a comfortable salary as a chef. That's particularly true if you land a job at high-end restaurants, resorts, and hotels. So that was just off the first thing that I pulled up. And if y'all want to look at it, it's being a chef, a good career, pros and cons for culinary arts. Okay? And the second thing, we were given a chart that showed there's a 2% decrease in the agricultural science field. Well, I had to look forever to find that one, but I found it. And it's field laborers, that there's going to be a 2% reduction in the workforce for agricultural science. And that's simply because of an increase in our mechanism, our machinery. I mean, even in my field right now, what used to take 20 people to haul in square bales of hay, one person can mow, rake, and bale and haul in enough hay for 100 people and 100 head of cattle in a season. So that wasn't a pure representation, and I know y'all may not like that I'm bringing up agricultural science, but it's in this field right here and could possibly use some of this money right here and go to a proven winning part of our CTE program. And our agricultural science, you don't see these signal space right here? This is all the possible jobs, not all of them, just a list, but this list right here of different job fields in our agricultural science fields right here, that our students get professional training at the high school level, and some of them can step into these without any college degrees, making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, go on to college and make even more than that. And this report said right here that outlooks for agricultural graduates looks good, and at least a 6% increase in growth, above average growth for related fields. So I think to consider this money for culinary arts is totally wrong to begin with, and it was wrong to begin with a long time ago. And everybody's gonna say, well, we've already voted to do this. Legally, I hope I'm right on this right here, I've seen it done before, there's not a sitting board that can't change what the previous board did except for doing away with this debt. We could change whatever we wanted to tonight. With this going, I'm not through. We could make motions tonight to change, to stop this culinary arts right now, even though it's been voted to do in the past. Because you're looking at $750,000 to start a project that White County can't sustain. We don't have any hotels, restaurants, and everything. Guaranteed they're gonna move out and move on to something else for our high school students that like that and going from here on. Well, we've got 2 classrooms of agricultural science students that moved from the middle school that didn't even have a teacher at the high school level that they could fill those classes. We've got that big a demand, moving from middle school to high school already. And we need this money for those teachers. And I'm not trying to make anybody mad or upset or whatsoever, but we've already been told that if this money goes back into next year's budget, we can appropriate it any way we want to. You can reappropriate funds at the beginning of a school year budget that's left over any way you want to. Am I right or wrong?
Local funds, yeah.
Okay. So now, and we were told no last time that we couldn't redistribute this grant fund right now, and I've come to find out since then we can. So I'm not trying to make anybody mad or upset, but we're not getting the whole picture of this right here, and I don't know why the culinary arts is getting such an interest like this right here, and our award-winning agriculture department is not. But I think as we as stewards of the school board right here, we need to change this. We need to turn it right back towards agriculture. That's my.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Mr. Hickey.
Yeah, so, you know, we decided to table this to get more information. And so, yeah, I've done some research too. The biggest thing for me of the people I've talked with is the rooms that they're using now, which are at the main high school academic wing, correct? Yes. And it can be made like 2 or 3 regular classrooms. So if we leave them there, there's not sufficient electrical, water, plumbing, drainage situation. So it's not a good situation as far as where they're at. So we either have to decide, to do away with the project or move them elsewhere. So also the people I've talked to, it is a very good field to go in. Yes, there are definitely long hours and hard to move your way up, but that's pretty much with any business that you go into. So I just think I just think it makes sense as far as, you know, getting that classroom moved out of that location to a new one. Now, do I like the amounts that it has gone up? No. But we've seen that on every single project. We've seen it at the grocery store when we all go buy groceries. It's getting a little bit out of hand for sure. But yeah, I think we have to look at it as we already, you know, we felt good enough about putting in for the grant, got the grant approved. I think it would be good for our county, good for our schools, good for the students. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cheeky. Ms. Stone?
Well, I was the one that asked to restudy this a little bit further, and I think the biggest thing wrong with this project is it may be showing a big increase in the culinary arts in these bigger cities. You take a city that's got hotels and resorts and state parks and, you know, wedding venues and all these things. I think it might be a decent field to get into. But we need to think about the people that we're graduating out of White County High School. We need them to get a good paying job in White County. And I don't feel like that I can think of anywhere anybody getting a culinary arts degree could go to work in White County making great money. Because, like I said, we have no hotels, we have no resorts much. It would be hard to get a culinary arts degree without going on for more education at a four-year college. And I think that defeats the purpose of the CTE money. It was my understanding that when you took this CTE money, it was to help students go straight into the workforce and not have to think about a four-year degree. And I think if they got a culinary arts in high school, they're still gonna have to get a four-year degree. And I think the closest one around here is like maybe in Kentucky or something. But then they could not move back to White County and get the kind of job they would be seeking after a four-year degree. I think that the money would be better spent on some other courses that we may not even be aware of that's out there that we could take advantage of with this money. I don't know if there's some kind of courses that, you know, for logistics or for aviation or something that we're not doing that maybe some of these other counties are, that our students might be interested in. But I don't think $650,000 for culinary arts is a good idea. I'm gonna also say, I don't like the idea of it being at the high school and taking up so much valuable class space. But I'm thinking there's probably somewhere else that we could use this to go into a smaller portion of something somewhere that would not be taking up $650,000. That would take up a smaller space. And what we're looking at is basically the old Food Line building taking up maybe close to a third of that building. I just don't see where we need that much space for the culinary arts program. I don't know if there's a space at the old vocational school that might be more suitable, that's not 3,400 square feet, that we might could do cheaper. I'm just still not comfortable with spending $650,000 on a course that I think you're still gonna have to get a four-year degree with.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Ms. Fowler?
So I appreciate y'all tabling it for Ms. Stone, Mr. Chairman, because of course I was on the road back. I have had some phone calls since the last meeting from people in my district that was totally against it. I had one today that was for it. I have struggled with this. Do I think we need to move them to a different space? Yes, I do. I think it would free up those 3 classrooms I don't know if you had it when we was in high school, but I mean, I had home ec, and that's where it was, of course, in the high school back then. And we didn't have all this, but I mean, I understand times change. Do I think it needs to be this big? I'm having a problem with that, and I'm having a big issue with the $650,000, you know, giving the $200,000 extra for it. And I get the construction costs have went up. I totally understand that because I come from that industry, and it may never go down. One of these days it may, if we hit a recession. But until then, it may just stay like this. But I think we need something. Do I feel like we need something this big? I don't. And I know this was all approved before I ever come along, and I know I've said this before, but I would really like to see us to be able to sit down as a board when it comes to these grants and try to go over it together with Mr. D and with Mr. Markham if we need to, or whoever normally sits down with Mr. D. I don't know who does. And maybe us try to look at that together on, you know, what we could do. I think it's a good idea, but 3,400 square feet, that's a lot. That's a big, I was doing some of the math today with the square footage on the dishwashing area, and I just don't see that we need all of that for an extra $200,000. If we could make it smaller, do something else, and I get if we go to a different room, it's gonna be further for the electrical to come to it. I get all that, because, you know, we've talked about that, but that's all I can say.
Could I add one thing? You know, we keep talking about real estate space for the high school. Everybody knows that, you know, we're not gonna be able to build a high school no time soon whatsoever. And we need the space of them 3 rooms at the high school. But who's to say we might not need some of this space of this 3,400 for something for CTE? I just think that's valuable real estate, and 3,400 square feet is a lot of room that we might could use a portion of that for another class. I'm sorry, I just forgot to add that.
That's not a problem. Mr. D, give you the opportunity to, I should have started with you, and I apologize.
No.
The opportunity if you have any comments.
No, it's fine. I've provided the board with ample data to support what the grant was trying to do. We've provided the board with factual information to show labor statistics, to show job growth based on the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce. Credible data. And also tried to portray to the board a vision for growth for our community and for our high school, looking towards future growth when we do need, and it is valuable real estate that will cost more later, like more than $200,000 to do a significant project down the road. But at this point, I feel like I've provided the board with all the information that I could possibly could, and shared the vision for what the school leaders wanted to portray. So at this point, that's been portrayed and ready to vote and move forward.
Okay. Well, I want to share with you some comments from myself, and then we'll see where we go from there. We were provided with the entire package for our review, which contained labor statistics. It contained grant information. Hats off to Ms. Felton and the team for putting that together. The Innovative School Grants covered a lot of different CTE programs, of which Culinary Arts was one that was highlighted. That's already in our current curriculum, and this would be an enhancement to that. So reading through the grant application, a couple things that I noted. Ms. Jacqueline Will, she started this, came up with this vision back in 2022. Here we're 2 years later, going going through the grant process and getting that applied for, getting it approved, and then coming back, and this being in the second phase of the grant, of things that, projects that we're trying to accomplish. The Culinary Arts Program, we knew going in, and this has been presented to us previously, that this was the second highest allocation of funds out of that grant, second only to the high school and middle school's agriculture program. And appreciate Mr. Howard sharing that input, and I think that's indicative of why we chose to go to such a high percentage to the agricultural program. One thing in reading, a couple things reading the grant that picked up on. Culinary arts has a broad demographic reach. And I think one of the things that you have to think about in CTE programs is that CTE programs, one of their purposes is to create work-based learning experience for our students. And you think of, when we think of students, we have to think of all students, even those that may not be able to, say, work on a circuit board or do anything in mechatronics or maybe drive a tractor. But we have to be thinking about all students when we think about our CTE program and our ability to provide opportunity for them too. And it was noted in the grant application that our expansion of this program would help create work-based learning opportunities with students' disabilities. That was highlighted. As far as statistics go, Department of Labor and Workforce Development, as Mr. Howard mentioned, referenced earlier, they do have accommodations and food service as the third highest employment percentage change projected in Tennessee between now and 2032. So there is some research that state Department of Labor has put into this, looking at needs, and they've trickled that down. For those of us that are familiar with Department's workforce development, that is a focused area that those entities are looking for as far as trying to provide training dollars to support those programs. So you look through the grant, you can also see that we have community support for this program. We had a letter of recommendation and support of our effort of the grant by Shantae Del Toro with AFIA Staffing, and wrote a very nice letter to Mr. Ward showing how food service industry plays a part, how it plays a part in our community and the impact that has, their willingness and their need for people to work in that with their business, and I'm sure there are other businesses with our county and community that need workers, and this is Culinary Skills does have opportunity to prepare students for going into that, maybe that's their first job or entry-level job as they get into the workforce. So there's a lot of there's support there. There's evidence and reason why this program is good, and it's good for our students and for our community. I guess a little partiality to that, having a daughter who is majoring in nutrition at Tennessee Tech, a culinary program for her would have been beneficial when she she started preparing her way for her next step. So we're not trying, I don't think this program is set up, and our intent there is to create award-winning chefs right off the bat, right out of the gate, but it is there for a learning experience and give students the opportunity to explore career pathways. And so I think what it comes down to, are we willing to invest $200,000 of capital appropriated funds to add to our learning portfolio and our learning experience. And a commercial grade lab in that learning space is that's something that we can be proud of. Creating some inventory in our high school facility. I'm sure at some point in time there'll be other programs that come along that we'll need that space for, and maybe it's population growth, who knows, but it'd be nice to have that available. But to me, it comes down to that us considering this funding, the deficit balance in this bid. It really comes down to me is that we're demonstrating to our desire to our students and sensitivity to the community and our community partners, our desire to create opportunities and experiences that will enhance our educational program that will extend out into our community. And so I think that's been well documented. So that's my thoughts on that, having reviewed this information, and so that I think I would be for that for us to move forward with this project.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to clarify. Now, we do already have a class like this. It's just not to this extent.
Correct.
We do already have the cooking and preparing and everything at the high school in the building, correct?
We do have, yes, we do have a culinary program.
Yes, just
We
not
felt-
to this extent.
Yes, and we didn't feel like it was to the level of our other CTE programs. That's why the emphasis was placed on culinary this time, to try and get it to the level we thought the other programs were.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, is there any other programs that we could bring into our CTE program that is high on the list of growth that we might could consider if we split the space? No? The 3,400 square feet, if we sized it down and left another room, is there another program that we might could bring in as well as a smaller look at culinary arts
Yeah,
at that space?
We could always look at other programs. Historically, the conversation I've had with our CTE directors and teachers and administrators is that we're all fighting over the same 1,100 kids at that school. And so you have to be careful about how many programs, we've talked about this a little bit before, how many programs you have, because you'll start to cannibalize your other programs. And so we've always felt like there might be one more out there that we could tap into, but we're just cautious about what that is for that reason. The latest one we've really explored into is the information technology and computer science. That really taps in, that's something, because jobs from home and working on a
Yes.
computer. So we're going into that, and that really is sometimes different types of students that are not going to affect maybe some of the other existing programs that we have. And so that's been a healthy marriage so far. So yes, we're open to looking at some of those other things, but I think, like I've mentioned to you before, we don't want to just do a little bit of everything, because then we start to hurt our other programs. And so and I also said the vision collectively as a region, we're trying to support one another. We understand that Cookeville and the Upper Cumberland, or Putnam County rather, is kind of the hub of the Upper Cumberland, and we support that as kind of bedroom communities. But we do things here that are unique to White County that other counties aren't doing, and likewise, they're doing some things that we don't in some of those CT areas. So we try and share collectively, because maybe White County in and of itself may not be able to bring in an industry that partner, but if we say, well, nearby Jackson County's doing this and Putnam County's doing that and DeKalb County's doing that, then we can get those industries, because they'll know there'll be those trained folks there. So I know it's a long answer to say, but yes, we're willing to look at those other industries, just have to be careful about what they are.
Well, has anybody looked at this 3,400 foot space? Is there a way to get back into our budget and size the space down and still get what we need?
It's possible. I don't know if we looked at reducing the size of it. We looked at value engineering and some ways to cut some corners, maybe do something different with the flooring, a different wall construction, some different things. We didn't feel like that was significant enough to get down to where we wanted it to be. We did look at that, but we haven't looked at just scaling the whole project down to get to that. That would consider a considerable amount of engineering, and you'd have to go back to the drawing board on the engineering part of it with all the MEP that would be involved. So it'd be it'd be a cost just to do that because they'd have to redraw it. I mean, it's a consideration, but it would take time and money to go back to square one.
How many students are currently involved in our culinary arts program?
I don't have those numbers in front of me right now. She has full classes throughout the day, and she covers that, but I don't have the exact number. And that's one of the things that, just they felt like it's limited because it's not an terribly attractive program right now because of the conditions that they have. And so we want to make that to the level of some of our other programs in order to, to continue that interest and that growth in the jobs that we think are coming.
Have we explored any other spaces that moving it from the high school to the old, what we would call the vocational building, other than the old Food Line building, that might be cheaper or more suitable?
Well, the vocational building itself is full of, there's no extra space there. I mean, they're pretty ingrained, those particular subjects that are there, or just ones that are there. So there's not a lot of space there too. That was the idea behind the Career Academy, was that there's a third of it in the back that was unfinished on purpose because we felt like future growth, and just, we're looking at this as an opportunity for one of those moments to maybe have some future growth there. So it was always designed as a place that when we had another program that we wanted to enhance, that might be a space to do it. So that's why we naturally looked there. Like I said, my big push, I mean, I want all of our programs to be great. I agree we have a great agriculture program, but I want all of our programs to be to that level. And so the push here is not just to, in my eyes, just to raise the culinary arts program to the level of pursuing excellence, but also I felt like, as I said before, it was going to free up valuable real estate in our academic wing that I think down the road we're going to want. And so that was really the push to move it down there, was not just to get a culinary arts kitchen, but to create a classroom space in the academic wing that's, I think, is going to be valuable down the road.
Well, I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I definitely think we need a culinary arts. I just don't know if we need it to that magnitude and that much space, considering how important space is and how expensive construction cost is. And if we spend a third of that building on culinary arts, I mean, if we spend a fourth, that would leave a fourth more for something else that we might could bring in.
To that point, it's not a third of the building. I mean, there's a third of the back of the building that's open. So you're really talking about a ninth of the building that we're talking about, which money-wise seems very expensive to be working on that portion for that amount of money. But there would still be room in the back for future projects. But to that point, you talk about the expense of building costs. It is expensive. I don't think they're going to get any cheaper. But that, to my point, is what I'm saying to the board, is that the vast majority of this money we're talking about spending is money that's coming from a grant. It's not coming from White County. So you're talking about spending $200,000 to build this state-of-the-art kitchen and to gain 3 classroom spaces in your high school. You won't get that kind of deal, I can't imagine, unless we get another grant down the road. Could happen.
Could happen.
Could
We get
happen.
another grant.
Could happen.
For another project for CTE.
Could happen, yes, it could
But
happen.
would we have the space to put it in if we got another grant? Would we have the real estate
Yes, you still have 2 more spaces the size of this
in that
this
building
culinary
open
in the back, yes. Yes, there's
that
that.
would be suitable for something?
Yes. Yeah, probably a more blank canvas than what we're trying to work with right now. But yes.
How many classes did you say she had?
Well, they have 3 classes a day, and
3.
she has, yeah.
And do we know how many
20
students she's allowed to have?
25 kids a class at least,
Yes.
so 75 kids a day. Quick math, right, Bob?
So, and it's been a while since I had a child in high school. So, do they still pick a career path?
They have programs of study where they'll take 3 courses in a particular program.
Right. So, is culinary arts a program of study that we
Yes.
do have?
Yes.
That way it's just, and I don't take this the wrong way, a child, Jason knows where I'm going with this, a kid taking a class thinking, oh, that's gonna be easy, I can just go in there and cook, and you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. No,
And I remember how it was when I was in school.
no, it's a legitimate course. mean-
So they would have this culinary arts, like 1, 2, and 3?
Yes,
And the same students would be basically there for all through their high school career?
right, similar we do to agriculture, to welding, to auto mechanics, yeah.
Okay, speaking of those other course classes, like the welding and the mechanics and all that, do we have all the state-of-the-art stuff, like for somebody in the auto mechanics class to be able to go out and get a job at, say, one of the dealerships or one of the garages or anywhere to do a service tech? Like, do we have the computers and all that we need?
Yeah, I
for
mean, I'm
those
sure there's
programs?
always more things they want, but we gave them the opportunity to provide a wish list, and we provided everything that, to my knowledge, that they had on those lists for those programs. But we do provide industry certifications, and when you come out of high school, you're already certified in certain different aspects of those jobs. I mean, they don't know everything they need to know, but they can go to these jobs with certifications and qualifications to begin.
Okay, like you say, they would do like a 1, 2, and 3 too.
Correct.
So, but we don't think we need to expand that program because basically you're talking probably, what, 30 students? 25?
In which program?
Like I said, like the auto mechanics,
Well, we have enhanced those programs. I think we've talked about that. We've
for
a
the
lot of.
number of students.
Yes, well, I mean, we're running those, those are full courses now, just like,
They have like the 1, 2, and 3.
yes, I mean, there's no difference in the programmatic standpoint of those programs, it's just their facilities are not up to par, as what we're talking about in culinary. I mean, we've bought new racks and ventilation systems for automotive, and we've done a lot of things for all those programs. Some TCAT's involved too, I mean, so our nursing program, it's a little different because it runs through TCAT, but they have state-of-the-art, materials and supplies and computers and things like that. So we're just trying to get culinary to that same level. It's not supported by Motlow or TCAT, it's supported locally through our school system, and so we're just trying to get it to the same level as some of those other programs.
Well, any of these other programs, like you say, that's sponsored through TCAT, what do we have that's sponsored through them?
Nursing program, mechatronics, which is very well supported.
Very well.
Welding, yes.
Okay, so when they leave our welding in high school, they go to TCAT and can
They
get
can.
certification?
They can. They don't have to go to TCAT, but they can, yes.
Now, do they come out with a certification from the high school?
They can get certified,
so.
yes. That's certain level certifications through that.
And same way with the auto mechanics?
Yes.
Okay, electricians,
We don't have that.
plumbing, any of that kind of stuff?
They do in construction. They learn some of those things, but they also learn some of those things in mechatronics, some of those systems as well. Electronic systems we do through other programs, not just through construction.
Because I know with like the auto stuff, you got people that the Pennzoil that does brakes, transmissions, motors, the technicians, there's just a lot of different diverse areas you could go into. That was my question.
Mhm.
Well, we've all talked. Has anybody else got anything else to say?
My turn again?
We can make it your turn, Mr. Howard.
Well, I want everybody to know that I don't get mad or upset right here. Sometimes I feel like I have a lot of information, I want to get it out, and I want to get it out quick enough to let everybody else have a chance to talk. And so I may sound like I'm rude and I'm inconsiderate, but I'm not trying to be that way. And when it comes to culinary arts, I like to eat just as well as anybody else. I like to go to some good restaurants. I don't get to visit many because I can't afford them. But I have eaten at some really nice restaurants, and it's important to have a chef that knows how to cook all these special funny things, but because I like trying them. But I like the good old staples, meat, potatoes, just give me those just 3 times a day, virtually 7 days a week. But I really think that this is just out of proportion compared to the bang for our buck of what we're going to get. Just looking here at agricultural science, it could entail culinary arts. Agricultural science could. Because it goes through, I'm looking at 120 things that this one report said that careers could come out of agricultural science, and I was just trying to categorize some of them. It goes into environment, the economy, the legal system, the retail, the scientists, the research, the soil scientists, waste management. Oh, wouldn't it have been nice to have a graduate from waste management or professional information of waste management before we sold our landfill down there this other day, so they could have helped our White County. Water quality, to me, that's the biggest threat to our ecosystem, and then wildlife. And granted, I'm not against culinary arts. I'm not. I don't want anybody to think that. I want to support multiple aspects of it. But you've got a concept and an organization started with agricultural science that could entail all of these, a lot of many extra things right here that could balance out and make a rounded CTE program compared to putting $750,000 into just one aspect of cooking. And so I would much rather see us encourage that program right there to reach out into some of these other fields and be able to say, hey, y'all want to come, 130-something million want to come out of middle school wanting? We're not going to turn 2 or 3 classrooms away. If the numbers are right, they turned away just about as many students from the middle school to the high school as they have in our culinary arts program. So that ought to tell us something right here. That's what our students are wanting. And so they see it. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a growth in culinary arts. But the growth in this agricultural science field right here is higher than that. That's what this report said. I'm sure you can find other reports. But no, you're not going to have field laborers. You're going to have a reduction of those because of agricultural science programs that's improving our machinery. We're going to have to feed more with less ground and less laborers, and America has done great leaps and bounds with that. It will continue to improve and increase, and we'll either be running along with it or we'll be left behind. And so I don't foresee White County ever having a culinary arts program to the extent of helping the community, helping our economy, the way that increasing this agricultural science program could, just by increasing them. So don't get me wrong, I'm happy for students in our county that want to go into culinary arts and have a program there sitting there for them. And I agree with the rest of it. You know, we've got valuable real estate to weigh pros and cons either direction, but I still think you're going to get a better buck somewhere besides culinary arts. And for me, here's an issue right now. If this is voted down tonight, it's not going to go away. It'll come back next budget year, next coming around. They'll use the $450,000 right now because we don't have the votes to stop that. And so I'm just looking down through here and by the comments, everybody, we're already split. Well, no, I don't know how everybody's going to vote. You may get 4 votes to go on through with it right now and take away $200,000 more and go further in debt with this budget process right here. Or you could say, hey, we're going to reevaluate. We're going to take that $400,000 back, and next year we're going to come back with a better plan. So that's what I'm in favor of.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that mean. I'm not saying that ugly. I know good and well if it just gets slowed down tonight, it won't be stopped.
Mr. McDonald, Mr. Hickey, y'all have any comments?
No.
Mr. John Barger? I think, point of clarity, district's not going to be going in debt to put this program in place. The money is available, it will be paid with cash. Basically, 1/3 of the bid that was submitted to us would be funded by our district out of capital appropriated funds. And while I respect all the opinions of the regarding other programs and need from those, just because we spend this money on culinary does not mean that an agricultural program is not going to get funded for anything else. It doesn't mean that a mechatronics program is not going to get funded by anything else. A welding program, building trades. We're not saying that none of those programs are ever not going to get funded for expansion or whatnot, but what we are saying tonight is we're considering the culinary program. And I think the case has been made that culinary is, the culinary program has been shortchanged as far as investment goes. And what draws me to a positive moving forward with this and with this program is the fact that you have to pause and think about some students that will not qualify or not interested in, or maybe don't have the ability to participate in some of the higher level courses. This gives them an option. And I was really impressed how that was stated in the grant, and I think that's something that should be considered. So I'll pause here.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, but they already have this option. It's not like they don't have this, they just don't have this extent of it, correct? That's what I asked Mr. Deaconess.
That is correct, Ms. Bauer, and I would agree to that. But the way I would look at it is that if you look at a mechatronics program, you look at the investments that have been made in our welding department, our welding program. If you look and see the investments that have been made in our agriculture department, there is an equity as far as programs and our ability to support those. And it's obvious that culinary has not been given the same amount of investment as these other programs.
Even on top of that, you got the Warrior Media program is top-notch across the state. I mean, we haven't skipped on any of that. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate everybody's comment. I just think we
I
need
missed
to.
that, Jason. What
Warrior
did
Media, our media program. I mean, we've got kids that first started that program that are on national news now. You know, I mean, we've got a great program there, and I think we invested in that program when it needed to be invested in. You know, like has been said, our agriculture program is top notch nationally. You know, one of the only programs nationally that's doing what we have done, and we got two great instructors and two great advisors over there, and we've invested a lot of money in them. There's not many high schools that can say they have a cab tractor, a hay tedder, a roller, you know, all of that inside of city limits to be able to mow hay and to do all the things that you need to do in agriculture. I just think we need to. Sometimes we need to expand our knowledge and not just focus on one thing and be great at, not just be great at one thing, but be good at a lot of things. And I think that's the way that we're trying to go here. And I think we've hashed this for 40 minutes now, and I think it's time, if we're going to do it, if we're going to move forward with this, we need to get a motion on the floor and then move forward. So see what happens.
Did you make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appropriate the $200,000 for this program.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
And is that, Mr. Markham, I meant to ask you, is that, I mean, is $200,000, is that the hard number that we need? Or do I need to?
I mean, I think you need to go back and we have to draw up a budget amendment for the exact number to get it down to the dollar.
Is that gonna cover what we need, the 200,000, or do I need to rescind that motion and make my motion for a closer dollar amount?
Well, I think, I don't know without doing the math exactly. I mean, I would think my gut would say to go more than that, just so you have more. I mean, you could close that whole fund and just move the fund back into the general purpose school fund and do it that way, if that's what you're.
The amount that was estimated by Mr. Ward was 203, but
Okay, so I would rescind the motion that I made for the $200,000.
Mr. Dickey, you go along with that?
Yes.
And then I will make a motion that we set aside $205,000. Or, I mean, is that enough? I'm asking here. I'm looking for some clarity.
Well, I mean,
If you take the
Or-
grant versus the bid, what's the grant versus the bid?
203.
3,000.
but there's also your engineering costs that are included in that.
So we don't actually know the total number.
they're included in what number?
So can
How does that grant number
can I pause and say something for a moment? Try to bring in. I appreciate everybody's willingness to address this item. What we tabled last month was the bid that was submitted. We were presented with a bid tab for the bids for this for the White County Career Kitchen Center, Career Center Kitchen. that was submitted on June 25th, 2024. The low bid on that was $651,200. So of that, we have grant monies appropriated for that in the amount of $408,570.10. That's looking at the grant submission. So I think what we would be looking for, if I make a recommendation to any board members to address this matter before us tonight, would be a motion to accept the bid as presented, with the school system providing the supplementing that grant funds for with the balance that was identified by the from the grant to the bids that were turned in. So what we really need is to accept the bid and then agree to appropriate the funds necessary to complete the project.
You want to make that into a motion?
Would you rescind yours?
I will rescind mine.
Okay. So I'm going to motion to accept the low bid by Sergio and Son on June 25th, 2024 for our culinary arts lab and supplement the Innovative School Model Grant with funds from the Educational Capital Projects Fund as identified by Mr. Markham. So that would be my motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I do. This is still not a turnkey price, correct?
The bid is the bid.
But this still doesn't include stoves, ovens.
No, not all. It doesn't include, it includes some equipment, but not all equipment.
Refrigerator. So we're still voting on something we don't know what's gonna be the total cost.
Well, there'll be some things that they purchase later on as they add on to, and some things that are coming from other schools that have been, when they've replaced things. And some of their existing equipment will go there.
And my statement about borrowing, going further in debt is you're looking at money that was left over from a previous project. And if we have projects this coming year right here that we don't have the money, and this money that was left over was already spent and everything, if we continue to do that project, we may have to go in debt. So now that was my comment right there. Once you spend this money, is there another fund that we don't know about that we can reach and get money?
General purpose fund.
So, I mean, fellas, I'm not used to sitting on a government entity right here that votes to spend $650,000 and still doesn't know the final issue on the cost right there, and still don't know whether we're going to be able to
Have enough to finish it.
to justify that dollar with the amount of what we get out of it. I hope I'm through, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not saying that mean, I'm not saying that ugly. That's just not the way government, that's just not the way elected officials are supposed to take care of business. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people disagree with that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well,
On motion.
while we're discussing that, a lot of the equipment that we're talking about moving, a lot of it is coming out of the, used to be Central View School, correct? Some of it.
Some.
I just wanted everybody that's in my voting district to be aware that that's where some of the equipment is coming from, out of the Central View School, where that would make it where it would be a lot harder to open Central View back up because a lot of the stuff has been moved out of that building. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we will do roll call vote, alphabetical order. Ms. Fowler?
No.
Mr. Hickey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
No.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Ms. Stone?
No.
Mr. Young? Vote yes.
Motion failed.
Motion fails, lack of majority. All righty. Any other action?
Public comment.
Public comment? Any other, before we move on to that, any other discussion on the culinary arts project?
So what happens now?
That's up to administration. We've done our job. We had, what was before us was to approve this bid. So I guess administration, it's up to you to figure out what you want to do next, okay? All right, so next item on our agenda is public comment. There was no one that signed up, so next leads us to our next item, chairman's comment. The next meeting is August 8th at Bonnycroft Elementary. That is a location change because they're going to be doing their opening that day, and that'll give us opportunity to participate in that. And then we will have our work session at 5 o'clock, regular board meeting at 6. This time I'll entertain, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, we may have another board meeting location change for later in the fall, but I can bring that up at the August meeting, so.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right.
May I ask
So-
a question? Is that Bonnycroft's open house? now
Yes,
also?
that's correct. We
How
switched
about
it
them?
so that the board could be there that night when they were having open house. We thought that would be a good night. There's lots of activities and a good night for you all to see it.
Thank you. I
And
think
that
that's
would be a
really
good
idea.
time for the public to come out and see this beautiful new school.
Okay, thank those comments. All right, this time I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We will call the meeting adjourned.
Is there anybody like working? I guess they're all off now. There's nobody here like representing the culinary arts program.
Yeah.